All right, we're about to dive into the mind of an absolutely incredible thinker from the 7th century, a monk named Maximus the Confessor. And we're going to use his ideas to tackle one of the biggest, most fundamental questions we can ask.
I mean, you've probably asked yourself this at some point, right? What are we really for? Where is all this heading? Well, Maximus gives us an answer that is just vast, totally cosmic, but at the same time, it's incredibly personal. So here's the game plan for our journey today. We're going to start with the blueprint for creation itself. Then we'll use this really cool analogy about iron in a fire to see how the divine and the human can connect. After that, we'll trace the soul's journey home and see what happens at the final destination, this idea of a final, joyful rest.
Okay, so to figure out where we're going, Maximus says we have to start at the very, very beginning. For him, every single thing that exists begins in the mind of God, inside a single unifying idea. Maximus calls this master principle the Logos. Now, what is that? You can kind of think of it as the divine reason, or maybe like the universal blueprint for all of reality. It's the one source code for everything, and, this is key, it's also the final destination where everything is meant to return. But here's where it gets really personal and pretty amazing. Maximus says that this one single logos contains countless individual logoi. These are the unique divine principles for every single thing. That means there's a specific, eternal reason for you, for me, for that tree outside, for a star light years away. We are all these unique, unrepeatable expressions of one grand divine idea. Okay, so this brings up a huge question, right? A real philosophical head-scratcher. If God is infinite and perfect, and we're finite and, not so perfect, how can those two realities ever actually connect? How does the blueprint become one with the building? Well, Maximus gives us this brilliant analogy that makes it all click. Just picture this. You take a simple iron sword and you thrust it into a blazing hot forge. What happens? Well, the fire's heat just completely permeates the iron. The sword starts to glow this brilliant orange red. It takes on the very properties of the fire. It gets burning hot, it radiates light, and it can now do things it couldn't do before, like set things on fire itself. Now here is the absolute key. The sword takes on the properties of the fire, but it never, ever stops being a sword. It's still iron. So you have two different natures, iron and fire, uniting to create one new reality, but neither of them gets destroyed or fundamentally changed. Remember that idea, union without confusion, because it is absolutely central to everything that comes next. So, taking that powerful image of the fiery sword, Maximus frames our entire purpose. He sees our life as this great upward movement. Now, this isn't a physical trip through space, but an internal journey. A journey back to our origin, back toward that perfect union with God. And he lays out a pretty clear 3-step path for how we make this journey. It starts with what he calls the ascetic struggle. That's the inner work, right? Mastering our impulses and finding inner peace. Once you're in that calm place, you can move to contemplation, where you start to actually see those divine blueprints, the logi, shining through everything in the world around you. And that, he says, eventually leads to the final stage, a direct, unmediated, mystical knowledge of God. And the destination of this journey, well, it is just about the most astonishing thing you can imagine. Maximus calls it theosis, which literally means divinization or becoming God. And yeah, he's serious. This right here is the climax of the whole story. This is the answer to our big question. For Maximus, our ultimate purpose is nothing less than to become, by God's grace, what God is by nature. It's about participating so fully in the divine life that we ourselves become divine. Let's go back to our sword in the fire. Remember, the iron doesn't become fire, does it? It becomes fiery. It participates in the fire's nature without losing its own. Well, it's the same for us. We don't stop being human. We remain who we are, but we become completely permeated with God's divine energy and grace, just like that sword is totally filled with heat and light. So, what is this final state even like? I mean, after this incredible, lifelong journey, what does it actually feel like to finally arrive? Maximus describes it as a state of perfect, unshakable, and totally eternal joy. And this isn't just, temporary happiness. He's talking about the complete and total fulfillment of every single desire, every longing we've ever had. Imagine a joy so complete that literally nothing can oppose it, not even the memory of your past pain. And, maybe most amazing of all, it's a joy you can never get tired of. It's an ever-new, unending state of delight. So, in the end, Maximus gives us this incredible vision. He answers that question, what is our purpose, with this ultimate destination, a place where all our restless movement finally finds its rest, and all our searching ends in a joy so profound it erases all pain, all fear, forever. A truly divine journey with a truly divine destination.